Turning our attention to those Texas A&M Aggies, over under win total at the Caesar Sportsbook of 8.5 wins, minus 170 to the over, plus 145 to the under. 4 home non-conference games: Sam Houston State, App State, Miami, and UMass all come into College Station. From the East, they go to South Carolina. They play Florida at home. In the West, they go to Mississippi State, to Alabama, to Auburn. And the Arkansas game in Arlington counts as a home game this year. So you only have 2 division home games at Kyle Field. Those will be against Ole Miss and LSU. LSU is the regular season finale. The big question here, do we feel confident that Texas A&M in its quarterback room has a quarterback who can help the Aggies compete with everybody else in the SEC, and maybe even like Alabama thrown out? Like, is this a team that is otherwise defense should be absolutely nasty? The offensive line, even after some losses, should still be very good. We've gotten things taken care of in terms of our legal troubles at the skill position players, as those charges were dropped, and they should still be looking at a team that has every answer except at the quarterback position. If you've got a hunch, or if you've got insider info, or what your assumption is on who ends up winning that job, or if it matters at all, that's probably where my questions start. But Texas A&M 8.5, what are we doing?
I'm going over, and I feel pretty good about it. I have concerns about this team. They're well documented because we've talked about them a lot on this show over the last few years, like the explosiveness of the offense and the passing game. It hasn't been there at all under Jimbo in recent years. But most of those concerns are bigger concerns to me when the Aggies are playing elite teams than they are when they're playing just the meat of their schedule. And when you look at the schedule, like you said, Chip, the Arkansas game counts as a home game. But the only road tests, if you look at the Aggies' overall road schedule, outside of the road trip to Alabama, at Mississippi State, at South Carolina, at Auburn. Not easy, but they're not exactly the most terrifying road games that you could possibly have while playing in the SEC. So I think they catch a break there. In the non-con, yes, App State is a tough game, and I would not schedule that if I was a premier program, because that's just, ask Michigan what happens. But I still think A&M is probably going to win that game pretty easily. I just think they're going to be too big, too fast, too strong. I think Miami is going to be better this year, but I think at home at Kyle Field, that is going to be a win for the Aggies. And I just go up and down the schedule. It's like, okay, they're losing the Alabama game. And even then, they might not. But what are the other games on here where you look at and say, oh, that's a real problem for them? I just don't see enough. So I think this team is going to go 9-3. I think 10-2 is just as likely as 8-4. So I'm going over.
Yeah, the margins are small. The margins are small. The point spreads are not going to be anything that we got close to Alabama, but there's no doubt this is the second best team in the West. And so I'm with you. I'm on the over here.
I'm on the under. And I'm saying this is a guy that, I told you guys 5 months ago, I bet them for the national title. But I want big tickets on this team because I need big things to click. Okay. They have had the second worst explosive pass offense in the entire SEC since Jimbo Fisher got there. Only Vanderbilt saves them. Their receiver development is terrible. They do not create wide open plays. It's all about, can you hit this guy in stride with a small margin? They want to have answers for every play. They don't play a lot of college offense. And I say all that, and yet they still have a ton of talent. They're the second most talented team in the West, I think. But that talent is also very young in some spots, particularly on the defensive line where they lost their top 4 guys by snap count. I want a national title ticket on this team because I feel like those kind of true freshman pups they have could grow up into some dogs by the time they sneak into the playoff as a one-loss non-SEC champion. But I only have, I think, 4 games where they are clearly double-digit favorites. Jimbo's teams also play very slow, which means that actually minimizes their talent advantage because it lets teams hang around. It also lets them pull some upsets at times because the better teams can't pull away. So at plus 145, I want the under here. I'll bet the under and I'll hold my national title ticket.
I like the play because I was tempted too. I don't love the value at minus 170 on the over. I wrote down, I had 7 wins automatic. I'm curious, I think they beat Arkansas. I think they get, last year's game, they come out ready. I think they beat Miami at home. I did not have Miami as a locked in W though. That's not including one of the 7. So then can they win, games on the road at Mississippi State? I think could present some problems. Like if they have to score, like Bud's talking about, they're not going to be a toe to go toe to toe with Mississippi State if they get.
Are they favored at Mississippi State?
What's that?
Are they favored at Mississippi State? What's the date on that?
I would
October
assume
1st.
They would be October 1st. It's
I
before
think
Beth's
Mississippi
trap
State-
game if there ever has one.
Mississippi State's a very short favorite if it's favored.
I almost want to just copy what Bud said. I'm on the over because when I look at these teams, like Auburn, I think is I had Auburn as a top. Like I think they beat Florida at home. I think they beat LSU at home. Like these are some of my lock wins. I have them winning on the road at South Carolina. The couple toss-ups, Ole Miss at home, I think they beat. And I think they beat Auburn on the road because who knows where Auburn's going to be November 12th. And we'll get to them in a little bit. But I've got them going over. But I kind of like the way Bud played it because if they go, if they do get things right, they could be that team that everybody's looking for outside of the top 3. So I like that little, I don't know what you would call that. Is there a name for that
Straddle,
hedge
maybe?
you're doing?
The straddle? They are favored by 6.5 in Starkville right now at the Westgate.
Mississippi State is favored by 6.5.
No, A&M is.
That's what I was surprised.
I don't agree with
would've-
that
give me
by my numbers.
Me too.
Give me the cowbell. I'll take them.
Yeah. Playing
Wow.
Do you play fast enough to win by double digits? I don't know.
well, these win totals don't require a margin of victory.
Right.
No, they don't.
Just require victories. And
I mean, like last year, A&M in their SEC games, their double-digit wins were Mizzou 35-14, South Carolina 44-14, Auburn 20-3, and that's it.
For the chat, no, I played A&M at 40-1, not 15-1. I do not want 15-1 on the Natty. That's no.
all right. So what about the quarterback position?
I think it'll be Haynes King.
Haynes King?
Yeah, fairly confident.
Nice. I mean, I guess that's a good thing because I looked at all 3 of those options as pretty good players. So if you've got one who's taking control of it, I think that means that Haynes King is set to live up to everything that was projected of him.
All right, well,
He's got some special legs too, right? I mean, he's
a good
he
athlete.
adds an element that, with A-Chain in the backfield. They've announced anything with Anais Smith?
Yeah, the charges got
Yeah,
dropped.
charges dropped.
So no issues.
Yeah, suspension over. He's back.
I need one of our listeners to make a meme for me. Like the Mario meme where he's holding the crown and it's like, you drop this king. I need you to do that, but replace the crown with a football. So that way I could tweet that when Haynes King fumbles. Like, you drop this king.
Oh my gosh.
Got it. Also, Tom did a real solid by doing the no context. I think that Texas A&M loses to South Carolina. Tagged Texas.
You're welcome.
And didn't include the wouldn't it be fun?
Nope.
Wouldn't it be funny if? So I guess I have to defend myself here because I can get you to 9-3 while maintaining a loss at South Carolina. It's 4-0 in the non-con. You beat Florida at home. That gets us to 5. Arkansas is a win. Ole Miss is a win. LSU's a win. Now all of a sudden we're to 8. And I just need you to win either at Mississippi State, where we just mentioned they're 6.5-point favorites, or at Auburn, where again on November 12th, I heavily lean the Aggies that way. So even if my wouldn't it be funny if, and thank you, Bud, you tried to fend off some of them, but I just, you got to just be steamrolled. You know that the people that are hollering at me on the internet don't listen to the show, right? That you don't get the show type joke there. But
Not yet, they don't.
There we go. But yeah, I think I can still get you to 9-3, still get you to the over, even if wouldn't it be funny. And Texas A&M was the original benefactor of wouldn't it be funny, because it was Florida turning right around when they were on top of the world, and then Kellen Mond taking him down the very next week. So we could still get there, even with what would be the biggest win of Shane Beamer's young career.